pure gold. Yay! Super wow. Woohoo!
I am impressed.
Cool.
I just jizzed a little.
Welcome back to the channel, folks. Lollipop Chainsaw. I never thought I'd be coming back to this game. When it was first announced that it was going to get a remake a few years back, I was through the moon. Finally, this game was going to get another chance to shine. Then when it was announced it was going to be a remaster instead, my feelings were all over the place. I was disappointed at first we weren't getting a new game in the series, even if it was just a remake. But with a remaster at the very least, the original would be playable on modern consoles, with better visuals and a better frame rate. Also, the original story could keep all its corniness and charm without having to shave away the edges for a modern audience. However, my expectations did take another hit when it was made obvious this would be a budget remaster, and that we were going to lose most of the original soundtrack, which I'll circle back to. Still, I was somewhat optimistic about Repop's release, and when it finally dropped last week, I was left underwhelmed, you could say. So let's get a few things out of the way before getting into this review. The game has serious optimization issues across PC and console releases. Is it a massive disaster along the lines of Fallout 76 or Cyberpunk 2077 when they were released? No. It is still a mess though, and I'd wait till the game is patched before buying it. I'd also wait for a sale too. Even with the first week discount knocking down the price from $50 to $40, it still feels too much. For a 5 to 6 hour experience of a remaster of a Gen 7 game, with practically no new content added, $30 feels like a more reasonable price tag in my opinion. Alrighty, now let's get into it. Also, you know, comment, like, subscribe, all that fun YouTube algorithm stuff.
Welcome to my bedroom. Don't think that me letting you in here is an invitation for any funny stuff. I mean, not that I have a problem with funny stuff. Especially not if you really like the person.
So this is going to strictly be a review of Repop. I'm not going to go in depth about the story. I already did that with the original game years ago, which I'll link in the description down below. It's not my best, and honestly, I kinda want to redo that video, along with some other stuff pre-GTA 4. So I'll give a quick little plot summary so you know what we're dealing with here. Originally developed by Grasshopper Manufacturer, Lollipop Chainsaw comes from the twisted minds of Suda51, the guy behind Killer 7 and No More Heroes, along with James Gunn, the guy behind Guardians of the Galaxy and Peacemaker, feeling like a campier version of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but with zombies instead of vampires. The game centers around high school cheerleader and zombie hunter Juliet Starling. Set on the day of her 18th birthday, her special day is ruined when the zombie apocalypse overruns her school and town. Armed with her pom-poms and chainsaw, she'll cut through the masses of the undead with the help of her family and her boyfriend Nick. Though Nick is mostly there for moral support, as he's just a disembodied head strapped to his girlfriend's ass after she decapitated him and used some magic to keep him from dying. Bringing our romantic lead to life are the voice talents of Tara Strong as Juliet, you know, Timmy Turner from Fairly Odd Parents, Riku from Final Fantasy X, and a host of other voices across tons of animated shows and video games. And Nick is played by Michael Rosenbaum, who you'll recognize as Lex Luthor on Smallville, and the voice of the Flash on Justice League. Oh, and as the voice of Nishiki in the original PS2 Yakuza dub.
10 years in the joint made you a fucking pussy!
Go watch that video, by the way. Returning to Lollipop Chainsaw, our main antagonist and the one behind the zombie outbreak is Swan, who looks like the love child of Robert Smith of The Cure and Billy the Puppet. Despite his appearance, he's less a misunderstood goth kid, and more Elliot Rogers in terms of personality and motives. Tormented by other kids at school and having his feelings spurned by Juliet, he plans to end the world by overrunning it with the undead, and through the help of elite musical zombies called the Dark Purveyors. Side note, Juliet didn't actually reject Swan. Like it's implied he started crushing on her when she stepped in when he was being bullied once, but Juliet barely knows who he is. They're not friends. Swan never spoke to or even confessed his feelings to her before he went off the deep end. He just decided to end the world after finding out she had a boyfriend. So yeah, less a tortured kid pushed too far, and just an incel. And to get ahead of that one person who's going to say it, No, it's never shown or stated that Nick bullied Swan either. Swan wants Juliet dead specifically because she has a boyfriend, not because said boyfriend is Nick. Lollipop Chainsaw is a standard third-person hack-and-slash game, less Devil May Cry and more akin to No More Heroes. Combat revolves around Juliet using her trusty chainsaw to slice through any zombies that cross her path. She can mix in pom-pom attacks and cheerleading moves to create combos, stunning zombies before finishing them off with her chainsaw. As you chain heavy and light attacks together to take out zombies, your score increases with every undead you dismember. To rack up higher scores, chaining combos and grouping as many zombies together as possible is key, especially when you activate Sparkle Hunting. Sparkle Hunting is a combo multiplier that kicks in when you decapitate 3 or more zombies at once. This not only skyrockets your score, but also boosts your gold and platinum zombie medal drops, the in-game currency. Killing zombies also gives you Star Souls, which fill a meter that lets Juliet enter a kind of super mode when full. During this mode, Juliet glows like she's grabbed a star from Super Mario, letting her one-shot most zombies and making Sparkle Hunting even easier to trigger. In the original version of the game, the song Hey Mickey by Tony Basil would play while the mode was active, but in Repop it was replaced with a different song. Outside of the hacking and slashing, there are some different gameplay sections thrown in as well. From stage 2 onwards, Juliet can use Chainsaw Dash to go through some on-rails running and jumping sections. Near the end of the stage, she'll unlock Chainsaw Blaster, which lets her fire bullets from her chainsaw and shifts the camera to being over the shoulder. Admittedly, in both the original and Repop, Chainsaw Blaster's auto-aim isn't great, and rather unreliable. Thankfully, you can just disable it in the settings and use manual aim instead. And finally, Stage 4 will give us some brief retro-inspired 2D sections. Aside from her chainsaw, Juliet can also put her boyfriend's head to good use. Scattered throughout levels are Nick Tickets, a special item that activates Nick Roulette. When used, you'll be able to pull off various moves using Nick's head, like spinning it around to knock back zombies, or launching it straight at them, or using his head as a piggy bank to get more zombie medals. These attacks can stun enemies, leaving them vulnerable to instant decapitation, and of course, Sparkle Hunting. Nick's head also acts as a backup life. If Juliet dies in battle, Nick can save you from using a continue and ruining your score, but that only applies if you die during combat. Zombie medals can be spent at the Chop to Shop kiosks scattered throughout levels. Here, Juliet can buy new combo moves, upgrades for health and strength, lollipops, platinum medals, and Nick tickets. On top of that, you can also unlock new costumes, MP3s of the game, music, and concept art. And will you just look at Juliet in those costumes? Just pure fan service, and I love it. Alright, so that more or less covers what you need to know about Lollipop Chainsaw as a game. So what are the differences between the original and Repop? First, I want to start with the content that's still in both. Repop uses the exact same voice recordings of the original, so every voice actor, performance, and dumb line you know and love is still here. All the cutscenes are exactly the same too, as are all of Juliet's costumes minus the licensed ones from anime like High School of the Dead, or movies like Evil Dead. And despite what a small group on social media will tell ya, no, this game hasn't been censored. My brother in Christ, how are you going to stand there and tell me when Repop still lets you ogle Juliet, peek under her skirt for a trophy, watch her bounce around in skimpy outfits, keep in lines like this,
Juliet, I am so totally gonna masturbate to you tonight.
Or like this,
Failed to mention the, disability.
or this,
My favorite president is Warren G. Harding.
or scenes like this. That this game in any way has been censored. Hell, depending on how your fight goes with one of the Dark Purveyors, Josie, he'll just keep saying, "Are you retarded?" throughout the first half of the fight. That's not a bug, by the way, or at least it shouldn't be, as he would do the same thing in the original version of the game. I've heard some grumblings that a few animations are slightly different from the original, or that a line of dialogue is missing, but there are some obvious explanations for that too. According to an update from the game's director, since Lollipop Chainsaw was moved from Unreal Engine 3 to 5, not every animation transferred smoothly. This meant the team had to rebuild some animations from scratch as accurately as they could. As for the missing lines, these seem to be the result of optimization issues and bugs rather than censorship. Dialogue can fail to trigger or get cut off depending on what actions you're performing while interacting with other characters, so all the dialogue is still here. Now onto the actual changes the game brings. The most notable is the visual upgrade. No longer restricted to 720p at 30 frames per second, Lollipop Chainsaw Repop now supports 1080p and 4K, with the frame rate boosted to 60 frames per second, depending on your platform of course. And yeah, the game looks gorgeous, with gameplay feeling a lot smoother overall. Mostly. Only issue is there are no graphical settings whatsoever, nothing to change motion blur, the quality of shadows, textures, or anything. All you get is the option to change the game's resolution, which is extremely disappointing to see in a game released in 2024. There's also a new repop mode that censors the game slightly, replacing the blood spray from zombies with sparkles and rainbows. Honestly, you'll barely notice the difference, but given Japan's strict rules on gore and YouTube's inconsistent guidelines, it's probably a way for players to stream without any issues. Now that I think about it, a combination of the game's glitches and the announcement of repop mode is probably the reason some people assume the game was censored. The devs also included a streamer mode, which disables licensed music to prevent copyright claims during streams. While not completely necessary, as only one licensed song remains, Lollipop by the Chordettes, it's still a small but nice touch, ensuring players don't get flagged just for browsing the game's shop. You also got new costumes to replace the licensed one that didn't make the cut, and they're pretty solid if I'm being honest. I'm really into Juliet's band girl look, her nurse outfit, and her bodycon outfit, though Juliet's ginormous butt does clip through a few of them. And you can now customize her hair color and chainsaw as well, with different chainsaws offering unique effects, like increasing zombie metal drop rates or making you immune to zombie grabs. Repop also rebalanced the prices of new moves and costumes in the shop, making it much easier to unlock everything by the time you finish the game. Some achievements were made simpler too. For example, the achievements tied to beating Juliet's dad's score in each level used to require an S rank, but now you just need to beat his completion time instead. The Chainsaw Blaster also got a buff, with its max ammo count increased to 99, and you don't have to stop to reload it either. This makes it a lot easier to keep firing and rack up quick kills, especially if you're using manual aim. As for the game's soundtrack, all of the previous licensed music has been replaced with new original tracks. Whether you like the new music or not really depends, especially if you're a returning fan of Lollipop Chainsaw. Personally, while I don't hate the new tracks, I definitely felt the absence of Hey Mickey and You Spin Me Round. I thought these other songs would be saved since they were part of Lollipop Chainsaw's original soundtrack, but even the Dark Purveyor's themes have been replaced. And oh man, the new music is a serious downgrade. Zed, the first Dark Purveyor, originally had such a good theme, which was composed by his voice actor Jimmy Urine, the lead singer of Mindless Self-Indulgence. The same goes for Lewis Legend. His original theme perfectly matched the tone and intensity of his boss battle much better than the new one does. I can take it or leave it for the tracks for the other Dark Purveyors. Not like it matters is I can barely hear the background music during the fights, which segues nicely into discussing the problems with the remaster. Now, I can't speak to every issue it has since I only played the PC version, but I did encounter several bugs during my multiple playthroughs of Repop. Side note, I wasn't intending to play through it multiple times, but I screwed up capturing footage with OBS, and the visuals I initially recorded looked awful. So I had to go into the settings for OBS to improve the bitrate and recapture the footage so it didn't look like ass. Now, the biggest problem I encountered was the audio mixing. Seriously, it's worse than the mixing of my videos. Dialogue, sound effects, and background music constantly drown each other out at different points throughout the game.
Explode! Get out of my way!
When switching between tracks, like entering sparkle hunting mode and then returning to normal combat, the background music would often become practically inaudible. Other times, sound effects would abruptly cut off whenever Julia and Nick started a conversation, or dropped a one-liner. I tried tweaking the game's audio settings, but nothing seemed to fix the issue. At one point, I even lost all sound entirely, and it didn't come back until I moved to a new area. Also, I'm not sure if it's intentional or not, but the loading screens lack music too. Also, the images for the loading screens have weird resolution issues that just make them look awful. The next big problem is the frame rate, which weirdly enough stays stable during chaotic combat, most of the time, but drops during cutscenes. For example, when you bump into Morikawa Sensei, The frame rate becomes erratic, causing noticeable slowdowns as the scene progresses, and throwing off the lip syncing. Sparkle hunting has a similar issue. When the game slows down to highlight Juliet's kills, her model often skips several frames of animation, making the whole thing look really choppy. Sometimes, certain effects from Juliet's attacks or the environment just won't appear either. Enemy AI will randomly break. Zombies will stand there dumbfounded, doing nothing until you attack them. This can even happen during boss fights with the Dark Purveyors, who also have a strange issue with their hitboxes when you go in for the final kill. This mainly affects the more mobile bosses like Zed and Lewis Legend. When you see the prompt to land a final hit and engage the QTE animation, it often takes several attempts before it actually registers. During my first fight with Zed, I activated Star Soul mode right before initiating the finishing move, and the animation dragged out so long I thought the game had frozen. In my second fight with Lewis Legend, the screen glitched and went completely white, though the pause menu still worked, and the fight continued like nothing was wrong. Thankfully, I didn't have to restart the battle, as using a Nick ticket fixed the issue. There were a handful of smaller issues that popped up during my playthrough, but nothing worth really getting into. Overall, I still enjoyed my time with Lollipop Chainsaw Repop. The heart and soul of what made the original game so fun is still here. I love its characters, how it doesn't take itself seriously, and its campy writing. While the bugs and performance issues are a detriment, they weren't enough to ruin my experience. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video though, I recommend waiting until the issues are patched before deciding to buy it. Thankfully, the developers have acknowledged the problems and plan to release the first patch, at least on PC, about a week after this video goes live. That said, even if the game ran perfectly, I still think its price tag is too high for what it offers, so I suggest waiting for a sale. The loss of the soundtrack and some costumes is disappointing, but on the bright side, the modding scene for Repop has already kicked off. Someone has already modded the old costumes back into the game, and it probably won't be long before the original music returns too. I also imagine there will be more quality of life updates and additional outfits for Juliet down the line. To those modding the game, if I could make some humble suggestions, let's get on an FOV slider for Repop pronto. And maybe a Harley Quinn outfit for Juliet? Do this and I, FuzzySlippers, will repay your hard work. Not with money, but something even better. Friendship. And a thumbs up on Nexus Mods. And that's the video. Thanks for watching, folks. And special thanks to my Tier 2 channel members and patrons with their names on screen right now. And special thanks to my Tier 3 channel members and patrons, including Alfred Correa, Augie Doggy, Chicken D Samurai, Miles Garrett, Skillfuse, and Reckless Nerd. If you want to support the channel, you can become a patron or channel member for as low as $3 a month, which will give you early access to future videos, occasionally uncut videos when I'm forced to censor stuff for YouTube, and members-only posts. With the higher tier getting your name in the credits or a verbal shoutout. I'm going to keep the outro short this time around, but I'll see you guys next week for the Mafia 3 video. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and comment down below. I'm hoping that we might be able to cross that 100k subscriber milestone by the end of the year, or at the very least at the beginning of 2025. So if you're new to the channel, I'd love it if you subscribed. Check out the last 2 videos I did here, or my video on the original Lollipop Chainsaw I did a few years back. I'm FuzzySlippers, and I'll see you later. Peace.